Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a really interesting area in healthcare, virtual clinical trials.
Yeah, it's a field that's moving fast.
Definitely. And just to kick things off, think about this. The global market for these trials is projected to hit USD 860 million in 2025. Pretty substantial.
It really is. And what's maybe even more striking is where it's expected to go.
Exactly. The forecast suggests it could leap to almost $16 billion, USD 15,954.13 million, to be precise, by 2033.
And that means a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 6.20%. That's not just ticking up, it's, strong, sustained growth.
It signals a real shift, doesn't it? Suggests we might be fundamentally changing how clinical research gets done.
I think that's right. It points towards a major evolution in methods and investment, everything.
Okay, so this deep dive, what we want to do is give you a clearer picture of what's behind this shift. We've been digging into the Global Virtual Clinical Trials Market Report 2025.
Which is quite comprehensive, over 250 pages.
It is. So think of this chat as your quick guide. We'll hit the key trends, who the major players are, and, where this market's really taking off.
Right, whether you're prepping for a meeting or just trying to get your head around a new area.
Or even if you're just curious about where healthcare research is heading, we'll try to connect the dots for you.
And the data's fresh, too. Updated this past March, covering history from 2021 to 2024, and then looking ahead all the way to 2033.
Plus, it breaks things down nicely by study design, like interventional versus observational.
And expanded access trials, and also by indication oncology, cardiovascular, and, others.
That detail is useful, isn't it? Helps understand the nuances beyond just the big headline numbers.
Absolutely. You see where the growth is happening within different segments and regions.
Okay, so we've got that big 2025 number, nearly $10 billion, and the 6.20% CAGR through 2033. What's the main engine here? What's driving this?
The report is pretty clear on this. The primary catalyst seems to be the increasing digitization across healthcare overall.
Makes sense, as more patient care and medical practice goes digital.
It's sort of a natural next step for clinical research to become deeply integrated with that digital infrastructure, too.
Right. Trials follow the broader trend. Okay, let's zoom out and look at the global picture then. Where's the market concentrated right now in 2025?
North America definitely holds the largest slice of the pie currently. We're talking over 40% of the market share.
And the value?
That translates to about USD 306.48 million for 2025.
Okay, biggest share. But what about growth?
Interestingly, their projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033 is a bit more moderate, around 4.7%.
And within North America, the U.S. must be dominant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The U.S. market is valued at roughly USD 878 million in 2025, with a 4.5% CAGR.
And Canada and Mexico.
Smaller markets, but actually showing slightly faster growth rates, 5.5% for Canada, 5.2% for Mexico.
Any particular reasons noted for the U.S. dominance or the regional dynamic?
Yeah, the report points to a kind of supportive stance from the FDA in the U.S. They seem open to integrating new tech into trials.
Okay, that helps.
And in Canada, there's mention of significant government investment in digital health infrastructure generally, which creates a good environment for this stuff.
Right, so North America leads now.
Yeah.
What about Europe? How does it stack up?
Europe's the second largest market, holds over 30% of the global share.
Which translates to?
Around USD 2,859.40 million in 2025. Their overall projected CAGR is a little higher than North America's at 5.3%.
And within Europe, is it evenly spread?
Not quite. There's some variation. The UK, for instance, has a pretty strong growth projection of 6.1% CAGR on a market size of about USD 480 million.
Why the UK?
Seems to be a strong focus on digital health initiatives there. Germany is the largest single market in Europe, about USD 566 million, with a solid 5.5% CAGR.
Driven by their general level of digitization, perhaps?
That seems likely. Then you have France, Italy, Russia, Spain. Their growth rates are slightly lower, more in the 4.3% to 4.7% range. But it's interesting, even smaller markets like Luxembourg show strong growth potential, 5.6% CAGR. Sweden, Denmark, too, around 5%. So it's pretty widespread across the continent.
Got it. Now, Asia-Pacific. Given the economic shifts we see globally, I'm really curious about APAC's role here.
You're right to be. APAC is definitely a key region to watch. They account for about 23% of the market in 2025.
So third largest share.
Yes, roughly USD 23,066.40 million. But here's the headline. APAC is projected to be the fastest growing region by far.
Okay, what kind of growth are we talking?
An impressive 8.9% CAGR expected between 2025 and 2033.
Wow. What's fueling that?
Several things. China's a huge part of it, obviously. Massive potential participant base, market size close to $1 billion in 2025, and an 8.4% CAGR.
Right.
But India really stands out. It has the highest projected growth rate in the entire region.
Higher than China's.
Yeah, a projected 10.8% CAGR. Its 2025 market size is smaller, around USD 236 million, but the growth trajectory is steep.
Why India specifically? Is it just population?
The report suggests it's more than that. It highlights specific government initiatives aimed at, well, smoothing the path for digital health and research.
Like streamlining regulations.
Exactly, and also fostering collaborations between tech firms and healthcare providers. It seems to be creating a kind of unique ecosystem that's very conducive to virtual trials.
That's a really key insight, India's government actively pushing this. What about other APAC countries?
Japan and South Korea also show strong growth, 7.4% and 8.0% CAGR respectively. And places like Singapore, Taiwan, even higher rates. Southeast Asia as a whole is also growing fast, around 9.7% CAGR.
So APAC is definitely the hotspot for future growth. Okay, quickly, what about the other regions? South America.
South America represents just over 5% of the global market in 2025, about USD 375 million. Their growth is solid, though, a 6.9% CAGR projected.
Key countries there.
Brazil is the largest, with a 7.5% CAGR, driven by increasing digital health adoption. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile also show decent growth.
And the Middle East and Africa. Smaller shares, I assume.
Yes. The Middle East is around 2%, about USD 394 million, but with a strong 7.5% CAGR. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are leading there.
Okay.
And Africa currently has the smallest share, around 1%, roughly USD 217 million, with a 6.5% CAGR. South Africa and Nigeria are the main markets mentioned.
Okay, so summing up the regions, North America leads now, but watch APAC, especially India, for the fastest growth. Let's circle back to the why. We mentioned digitization. What other drivers are pushing this global expansion?
The report highlights a few key ones. First, just a general rise in R&D activities in pharma and biotech.
More drug development means more trials needed.
Exactly, and a need for more efficient, maybe cheaper ways to run those trials. Virtual methods can offer that.
Right.
Second, as we said, the increasing healthcare digitization. It provides the tech foundation and makes everyone more comfortable with these approaches. Third is the big one we've seen recently, the adoption of telehealth.
Yeah, that's become so much more common, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It built infrastructure, but also familiarity, remote monitoring, remote consultations. These are core elements of virtual trials. People are used to it now.
That makes perfect sense. Telehealth sort of paved the way.
Precisely. And beyond those factors, it's also about the technology itself getting better and more applicable. Traditional trials, they can be really expensive and face high failure rates. But now you have AI, cloud computing, wearables. These allow for much richer continuous data collection. Think about getting data constantly from a wearable device versus just at clinic visits.
That's a big difference. Any specific examples?
The report mentions Medable Inc.'s software. Apparently, it helped reduce the deployment time for some vaccine trials by half.
Wow, 50% faster deployment. That's significant acceleration.
It really is. Speed matters a lot in research.
Okay, so technology and R&D demand are pushing. What about the regulators? Are governments helping or hindering?
Generally, supportive government initiatives are listed as a key driver. The FDA in the U.S., for instance, is mentioned as being quite open to these new approaches.
So they're not blocking it.
No, quite the opposite, it seems. They've even been involved in developing guidelines for using virtual tools. The report mentions the Clinical Trial Transformation Initiative, or CTTI, which the FDA sponsored, setting standards for things like telemedicine in trials.
Having clear guidelines must give the industry confidence.
Definitely. That kind of proactive regulatory stance is really important.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of factors are aligning: tech, demand, regulation. But it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there roadblocks? What about market restraints?
Yes, there are definitely challenges. Regulatory hurdles are still cited as a restraint.
Wait, you just said they were supportive.
It's a bit of both, you see. While agencies like the FDA are open, ensuring compliance across different regions and adapting existing rules to these new virtual models, that's still complex.
Okay, so navigating the specifics is the hurdle.
Exactly. The FDA has its rules. The European Medicines Agency, EMA, has its responsibilities. Making sure a trial meets all the requirements everywhere it operates can be tricky.
I see. What else?
The other big one is data privacy and security.
That's always a concern with health data.
especially when you're collecting so much data remotely. Ensuring robust security, protecting patient privacy, that's absolutely critical, and a potential barrier if not handled perfectly. You need strong measures to build and maintain trust.
Makes sense. Strong security and clear rules are vital. Okay, looking forward then. What are the big trends shaping the future here?
Two main trends stand out in the report. First is the decentralization of clinical research.
Moving away from just physical sites.
Exactly. Virtual trials allow research to break free from geographic limits. This means you can potentially reach a wider, more diverse group of participants who couldn't travel to a specific clinic.
That sounds like a major benefit for recruitment.
It is. The report mentions Covance, for example, expanding its tech back in 2020 specifically to speed up virtual and decentralized trials. So industry is leaning into this.
Okay, decentralization, what's the second trend?
An increasing emphasis on patient-centered methods.
Making it easier for the patient.
Yes. Think about traditional trials. Sometimes lots of travel, time off work, disruption. Virtual trials, by allowing remote monitoring and maybe even remote treatment delivery, reduce that burden.
More convenient, less costly for participants.
Right. And the thinking is, if it's easier and more comfortable for patients, they're more likely to join a trial, stay in it, and be engaged. Better retention, better recruitment.
Patient centricity improving the whole process. Okay, that sounds positive. Now, who are the companies driving this? What's the competitive landscape like?
It's described as pretty active, lots of competition. You have key companies investing heavily in R&D, improving their tech platforms.
And forming partnerships.
Yes, strategic alliances are common. For instance, IQVIA launched something called One Home for Sites TM just recently, June 2024, aiming for a unified digital platform for research sites.
Trying to streamline things.
Seems like it. Another example, Oracle partnered with Avio Health back in late 2022. Their focus was on integrating different kinds of data sets in virtual trials, specifically in the Asia-Pacific region.
Interesting focus on APAC data integration. Who are some of the other big names mentioned?
The report lists quite a few. Let's see, Icon, Peltic, Paraxel, IQVIA, again, Covance, which is now part of LabCorp, PRA Health Sciences, now part of Icon, Leo Innovation Lab, Metadata, Oracle, CRF Health, now Signet Health, Clinical Inc., Medable Inc., Signet Health again, Halo Health Systems, and Cropran.
Okay, quite a list. Sounds like a mix of established CROs and more tech-focused players.
Exactly. It's a dynamic space.
Right. Let's switch gears slightly and talk segmentation. How does the report break down the market?
Mainly two ways, study design outlook and indication outlook.
Okay, let's start with study design. What are the categories?
Interventional, observational, and expanded access.
And which is biggest?
The report expects the interventional segment to likely dominate,
Why is that?
mostly due to the increasing digitization of lab work and just the sheer volume of drug trials happening.
Makes sense. Any segment growing particularly fast?
Yes, the expanded access segment is projected to be the fastest growing.
Expanded access.
Yeah.
That's for getting access to drugs outside of standard trials, right?
Exactly, and the report suggests that things like new COVID-19 variants or similar emerging health threats drive demand for quicker access to investigational treatments, boosting this segment.
Interesting. Okay, so interventional leads, expanded access grows fastest. What about segmentation by medical condition? The indication outlook.
The main segments discussed are oncology, cardiovascular, and then a general others category.
And the leader there. I guess oncology.
You'd be right. Oncology holds the largest market share currently, and that's expected to continue.
Why? Just the number of cancer cases.
That's a big part of it, the growing incidence of cancer globally, leading to a constant stream of oncology trials. But cardiovascular is also highlighted.
As a major area.
Yes, and one experiencing rapid growth within the virtual trial space. This is linked directly to the rising prevalence of cardiovascular diseases worldwide.
Which are huge health problems.
Massive. The report even references WHO and CDC stats about cardiovascular disease being a leading cause of death globally and in the US, so there's a huge need for research and new treatments there too.
Okay, so significant virtual trial activity in both cancer and heart disease. All right. As we start to wrap up, what are the main conclusions the report draws, the key takeaways?
Well, it really reiterates that significant overall global market expansion, that 6.20% CAGR between 2025 and 2033 is a core point.
Strong growth confirmed.
Yes. It also emphasizes the likely dominance of interventional trials within the study design segments, driven by that need for new drugs.
Okay.
And finally, it underlines that oncology is set to remain the largest slice of the market by medical indication, reflecting where a lot of the research focus lies.
Got it. So to quickly recap our deep dive today, we're looking at a virtual clinical trials market that's really set for major growth.
Driven largely by healthcare going digital and generally supportive regulators.
Right. And while North America leads in market size now, Asia Pacific, especially India, looks like the place for the fastest future growth.
And the key trends pushing things forward are that move towards decentralization and a bare focus on making trials easier for patients.
Patient centricity. And segment-wise, interventional trials and oncology research are expected to be the dominant areas.
That sums it up pretty well. Understanding these dynamics, it offers really valuable context for anyone in healthcare or tech or investment. It shows a major shift in how research is done.
Absolutely. It really does feel like a transformation underway. And maybe that leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Yeah.
Given these rapid tech advancements and this increasing reliance on digital tools, how might virtual clinical trials truly fundamentally reshape medical research? And maybe even patient access to brand new treatments over the next, say, 10 years?
That's a big question. Reshaping access.
Something to think about as this field keeps evolving so quickly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.